Good morning. My name is Kelly Trombley Freitag, and I serve on your DuPage UU Church Board of Trustees. We want to welcome everyone this morning to our open and inclusive virtual community. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and pledge to support one another as we explore these paths. We are so glad you were able to find us and join us for our live stream service today. Please check the church website at www.dupageuchurch.org for updates. If you search under DuPage UU Church on Facebook, you will find a number of ways to be in community with us as well. There's an additional announcement for today. We would love for you to join us today at noon for Science Sunday. Today, the discussion will be presented on Zoom. Please look for the Zoom details in the order of service. Next Sunday, we will again have our Zoom coffee hour. That Zoom link can be found on the Members tab of our website and in the weekly church email. Thank you.
Our opening words are by Jack Mendelson. In the sanctuary of ancient dreams and wisdom and beauty, we come to grow, to be healed, to stretch mind and heart, to be challenged, renewed, to be helped in our own continuing struggles for meaning and for love, to help build a world with more justice and mercy in it, to be counted among the hopers and doers. In the face of cynicism, darkness, brutality around us and within, we seek to align ourselves with a living community that would affirm rather than despair, that would think and act rather than simply adjust and succumb. Here we invite the spirit of our own humanity and the healing powers under, around, through, and beyond it, to give us the nerve and grace, the toughness and sensitivity, to search out the truth that frees. And as we light the chalice flame, these words by Vance Bass. Every day brings struggle, every day brings joy. Every day brings the opportunity to ease the struggle of another, to be the joy in another's life. May this flame remind us to carry our light to each other and to the world. Our opening hymn is number 1020, Wo-Ya-Ya.
It will be hard, we know. Please join me in reading the spoken affirmation of our church. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
It is time to gather. A lot of stories that you hear, especially picture book stories, tend to introduce a problem or situation, and then it gets worked out and solved and everyone is happy at the end. And I've always wondered if it's really possible to solve a problem or situation and have everyone happy at the end. So I have a story today that shows what could happen if only the protagonist is the one happy at the end of the book. The story is Stuck by Oliver Jeffers. It all began when Floyd's kite became stuck in a tree. He tried pulling and swinging, but it wouldn't come unstuck. And the trouble really began when he threw his favorite shoe to knock the kite loose. And that got stuck too. So he threw up his other shoe to knock down his favorite one. And unbelievably, that got stuck as well. In order to knock down his other shoe, Floyd fetched Mitch. Cats get stuck in trees all the time, but this was getting ridiculous. Floyd fetched a ladder. He was going to sort this out once and for all. And up he threw it. I'm sure you can guess what happened. The ladder was borrowed from a neighbor and would definitely need to be put back before anyone noticed. And in order to do so, Floyd flung a bucket of paint at it. And wouldn't you know it, the bucket of paint got stuck. So then Floyd tried a duck to knock down the bucket of paint, a chair to knock down the duck, his friend's bicycle to knock down the chair, the kitchen sink to knock down his friend's bicycle, Floyd's front door to knock down the kitchen sink, the family car to knock down their front door, the milkman to knock down the family car, an orangutan to knock down the milkman who surely had somewhere else to be, a small boat to knock down the orangutan, a big boat to knock down the small boat, a rhinoceros to knock down the big boat, a long-distance truck to knock down the rhinoceros, the house across the street to knock down the long-distance truck, a lighthouse to knock down the house that's no longer across the street, and a curious whale in the wrong place at the wrong time to knock down the lighthouse. And they all got stuck. A fire engine was passing and heard all the commotion, and the fireman stopped to see if they could help at all. And up they went, first the engine, followed by the firemen, one by one. And there they stayed, stuck between the orangutan and one of the boats. Firemen would definitely be noticed missing, and Floyd knew he was in big trouble. Then he had an idea and went to find a saw. He lined it up as best as he could and hurled it up the tree. And that was it. There was no more room left in the tree, and the kite came unstuck. Floyd was delighted, and he'd forgotten about his kite and put it to use immediately, enjoying the rest of the day very much. That night, Floyd fell asleep exhausted. Though before he did, he could have sworn there was something else he was forgetting.
Please join us for our sung affirmation.
Since what we choose is what we are, and what we love we shall be, the goal may ever shine afar, the will to reach it makes us free.
We hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows. We remember those who are experiencing losses of various kinds and those facing health challenges. We are aware that many are faced with heightened difficulties presented by these times that continue to be challenging for all. The cares of the world weigh on us. Earthquake in Haiti, war in Afghanistan, coronavirus spreading in too many places. May we find joy in our connections with each other and in the pleasures that life holds. Let us continue to care for one another and for ourselves in all the ways we can. And as we hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows, whether spoken or unspoken, let's take a moment to be quiet together. This meditation is by Manish Mishra Marzetti. The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake, reminding us that the solidity we often love and seek is an illusion. The crumbling dust of the desert plains, the moist fertility of farmlands, the ending coastline of tidal shores all are changing. New experiences lead to new truths, which foster evolution. The natural course of life always pushing us toward greater understandings of what it means to be human. Everything about our existence points toward change, flexibility, and dynamic recreation. And it's hard because change involves loss. Can we hold the losses well while not holding ourselves back? The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake. Nothing is static.
Please join us for our meditation hymn, number 1009, Meditation on Breathing.
Breathe out, breathe in. Our special collection recipient in August is the Animal Rescue Foundation, a no-kill, all-volunteer, foster-based organization dedicated to rescuing and rehoming homeless dogs and cats. Donations to support the work of DuPage Unitarian Church are gratefully given and received. Autobiography in 5 short chapters by Portia Nelson. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find my way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in, again. I can't believe I am in this same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. Obstacles by Alfred de Souza. For a long time, it had seemed to me that life was about to begin, real life. But there was always some obstacle in the way, something to be got through first, some unfinished business, time still to be served, a debt to be paid. Then life would begin. At last, it dawned on me that these obstacles were my life.
One of my mentors in ministry, reflecting on the way that human beings, family systems, and institutions work, would regularly intone, "You can't change one thing." Of course, what he meant was that changing one thing changes everything. No one change can be made in isolation. You can't change just one thing. So if you can't really change one thing, how can you change anything? How do we respect and learn from the heritage that helps shape us, carry forward those aspects that we find useful and meaningful, and change the things that we believe need changing? The way we've always done things can be a powerful force. How can we make room for transformation? In our story this morning about the boy who was stuck, it seemed like his method of throwing things up into the tree to get his kite down actually worked for him, since the kite was dislodged after all. No wonder he was stuck. From the boy's point of view, his method was functional rather than dysfunctional. But the firefighter stuck in the tree had a great idea, and maybe even figured out a better way to get down from the tree. The autobiography in 5 short chapters illustrates that the way we've always done things can be a powerful force. But the change is possible. I fall in the hole in the sidewalk. I fall in again. I still fall in. I walk around the deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk down another street. The obstacles of our lives are in many ways the stuff of life. How will we deal with them? Fall into the potholes and pitfalls, walk around, build a bridge. One writer suggests that hope is that slender thread that we shoot across the abyss of despair so that we may later haul across the ropes of reality. She says we are not meant to swing across the chasm on glimmering gossamer strands of hope. They are there to guide us as we do the hard work of building the bridges upon which we all may walk across for generations to come. Building bridges is grubby and unglamorous, scary, expensive, and time-consuming, but that's what gets us across. And for that, we need companionship and community. So how do we build bridges from where we were to where we are, to where we want to be? We are blessed with the capacity for courage to change what must be altered, serenity to accept what cannot be helped, and the insight to know the one from the other, to use the words of Christian theologian Reinhold Niebuhr's original version of the well-known Serenity Prayer. The Serenity Prayer is grounding, whether directed to a power we would name God or to our own inner power. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I am intrigued by the revolutionary possibilities of this variation on the Serenity Prayer, attributed to Angela Davis, 1960s radical, now retired from her academic career. I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept. Like any prayer, this prayer is aspirational. I'm changing the things I cannot accept. It broadens the possibilities of what actually can be changed, raises hopes beyond resignation. What if we change the things we cannot accept? Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams told this story about his time as a member of the Board of Trustees at the First Unitarian Church in Hyde Park while he was teaching at the University of Chicago in the early 1950s. A member of the board often complained about the ministers preaching too many sermons on race relations. He often said that academics like Adams, of course, know little of the world of reality. One evening at a meeting of the board, he started up on the topic again. So the question was put to him, do you want the minister to preach sermons that conform to what you have been saying about Jews and blacks? No, he replied, I just want the church to be more realistic. Then Adams and other members of the board began to ask the so-called realist, will you tell us what is the purpose of the church anyway? And the realist replied, I'm no theologian, I don't know. And the others continued to challenge, but you have ideas, you are a member here, a member of the Board of Trustees, and you are helping to make decisions here. Go ahead, tell us what the purpose is of what we are up to here. We can't go on unless we have some understanding of why we are here. The questioning continued on into the night, and items on the agenda for the evening were ignored. And as Adams told the story, at about 1 o'clock in the morning, after hours of debate about race relations and the role of the church, our friend the realist became so fatigued that the Holy Spirit took charge. And our friend gave a remarkable statement. He said, the purpose of the church is to get hold of people like me and change them. And Adams continues the story. Someone suggested that we should adjourn the meeting, but not before we sang Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. James Luther Adams concludes, there is the vocation of the church to form a network of fellowship that alone is reliable because it is responsive to a sustaining and transforming power. So the purpose of the church is transformation. The purpose of the church is to get hold of people like us and change us, transform us. The purpose of our lives is transformation of ourselves, of each other, of our community, and of our world. One expert on personal and corporate changes makes the distinction between change and transition. He says that change is situational, while transition is psychological. Change is something that happens. Transition, using this definition, is our inner response. The inner reorientation and self-redefinition that you have to go through in order to incorporate any of those changes into your life. Change is universal, situational, and happens all the time. The response to change is the transition, the resulting reorientation and self-redefinition. Harvard researchers Robert Keegan and Lisa Lasko write about how to overcome what they call immunity to change, but which might be called resistance to transition. They write that it is not change that causes anxiety, it is the feeling that we are without defenses in the presence of what we see as danger that causes anxiety. That change makes us uncomfortable is now one of the most widely promoted, widely accepted, and under-considered half-truths around, they say. Rather, it is change that leaves us feeling defenseless before the dangers we think we know to be present that causes us anxiety. They write that we cannot succeed with adaptive challenges without recognizing that we are putting at risk what has been a very well-functioning way of taking care of ourselves. And they suggest that the way to change is to make our commitments to change, to examine what we are doing instead, to search our own hidden competing commitments, and to challenge our own assumptions about the benefits of what we have been doing and about the risks involved in change. The old ways can be functional and comfortable even when we recognize that they are not working the way we want them to work, even when they are dysfunctional from an objective standpoint. It has been suggested that the day comes when remaining the same becomes more painful than the risk to grow and change. And when that happens, we leave old patterns, old ideas, and some cherished beliefs. Loss and growth are so often one and the same. Change can be unsettling, difficult, and risky. Change can also lead to new ways that may be more authentic to who we are and who we want to be. Change can open us to new opportunities. To change one thing changes everything. Isn't this the way the universe works? Chaos theory tells us that a small change makes a big difference. You can't change one thing without affecting everything else. Some things have changed and continue to change around here. You're in between what was and what will be. You're in transition. We're all works in progress, and we learn to relate to each other and to work together as minister and congregation. It's your church. Ministers come and go. My job is not to change things for the sake of change. My job is not to change things or to change you. My job as your interim minister is to help you do what you want to do and be who you are at your best, and to help you envision what your best looks like. How will you respect and learn from the heritage that helps shape you? How will you carry forward those aspects that are useful and meaningful? How will you change the things that you want to change? Will you be resistant to transition or open to transformation? After all, you can't change one thing. And our closing hymn is number 295, Sing Out Praises for the Journey. As we extinguish the chalice flame, may we carry its light in our hearts. And may we live our lives fully and creatively so that we may be a blessing to ourselves, to each other, and to all those whose lives we touch.